gotta record it going. Hell yeah! Not bad. 60.
So I wanted to go over the key points and items needed to do the DPFI swap to the MPFI swap for a 88 to 91 Civic. I made a parts list and some of the key points I took away from other videos I've watched. I will link those videos in the description in order, but I figured it would be of use to some people to go over exactly what I needed and exactly what I had to do to get it running with the limited parts I had. I basically had leftover parts from when I received the car. I still have old parts over there, but I basically did not have to purchase anything, and it is actually running to my surprise, as I've never worked on any of these old Hondas before. It was actually a very fun project, and I'll get into it. So the basic parts you will need are the injector clips for the fuel rail, the resistor box, the SI distributor, the MPFI manifold itself, an SI ECU, some extra wire, and some heat shrink. What? Are you gonna help me, buddy? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just kind of go down my list. This is in no particular order. Obviously, removal of that, it will dump coolant out because there is coolant hoses. It goes through, yada, yada, yada. Just make sure you drain the coolant. The clips that you get should have a little bit of wire on, so you can add extra wire that goes to the ECU. You will have to D-pin A1, 3, 5, and 7 on the old ECU harness C, I believe it is. And I will say I did not solder anything. As you can see, I basically just twisted the wires together and heat shrunk them together. I figured this would be fine. As if you pull, nothing, they won't pull out. Next is you D-pin the ECU wires for the resistor box, A15 on the ECU, and that is this yellow wire. So that is going into the cabin on A15 harness C. What are you doing, buddy? D-pin the ECU wires for the distributor, the blue wires on harness A, in the ECU, and these blue wires coming off of the distributor, these two blue. Oops. These are going into the cabin as well. Like I said, harness A, I believe it's pins 1 and 2. D-pin the ECU wires and swap to the other pins on the ECU. So you're swapping from harness A to harness B. So those wires 1 and 2 will go to, I believe, 11 and 13 on harness B. I will say this is for me, the hardest part was of the whole swap, basically, trying to find something small enough to deep-in harness A and harness B. I ended up filing down a paper clip to a sharp point to where I could put it in, lift, and release the wires to basically depin it. It sounds really stupid, but that's why I'm making this video. That was the hardest part for me. I also did some preventative maintenance by replacing these vacuum lines. I had some old, or brand new BMW vacuum line laying around, and cut it to length and did some maintenance there. Resistor box wiring from all of the injectors. As you see, these go right. I will say I couldn't find any particular order to put these in, and I kind of just went, they're basically random. So the car runs fine. I think it's safe to say there is no order. You just wire it to this box and it will work. Next on my list, the TPS sensor. I had to lengthen by about a foot. That runs back to here. Off of this harness. There's also this green clip right here. I had to lengthen by about 8 inches. What are you doing? I don't understand. You're not even helping, dude. Yeah, you're gonna yell at me. Leftover wires of note. This is a very long white plug, and I just have it sitting there. It's off of this same harness. There's also two other plugs here, brown and green. These were the old fuel injectors, I believe. I did not cut these, they're just sitting there. You have to depin the old distributor plug to go on the new SI plug. This is why the swap took me 2 days longer. As you can see here, there are two white wires. One is ever so slightly bigger, as you can see right here. It's this one. So it goes white, orange, white. Blue is on the left. The one in front is the bigger white wire. I had these swapped and the car would not start. It would just crank over. It kind of sounded like there was no fuel going to the car. I tested the injectors. I pulled them out and put them in a cardboard box while still attached to the fuel rail. And the injectors were squirting, you know, and I knew it wasn't the fuel, even though it was acting like the fuel. But I went back and rewatched the videos about the distributor wiring because that was the last thing that could be wrong. And it was indeed these two white wires were swapped. So I swapped them and cranked the car and it started right up. Once it started, the throttle cable did need adjusted. It started and idled at like 3,000 RPM. Shut it off, came here, loosened it, started. It was about 2,000 RPM, shut it off, loosened it a little bit more, and now it idles about 800 to 1,000 RPM, which I think is just fine. I will say I had to move the bracket. As you can see, I moved it over one. There's nothing there now. As you see, there's two holes. I am still using the old throttle cable. The old throttle cable loops around. It's way too big. I don't have an SI cable. It works. My throttle has not got stuck yet. You know, nothing of that nature. It is what it is. Just like I said, I'm working with what I have. Another thing of note that was not mentioned in the videos. Right here, if you can see, there is a line going up to the intake and then into right here. Into the block. Gosh dang it. Yeah, right there. And then into the block right there. I don't know if this is a coolant hose or a vacuum line. I did not have a hose for that. So what I ended up doing is cutting the old fuel line. I had an extra, because I had an extra fuel rail. I actually cut this and clamped it to the intake to the block, and it has not leaked yet. I think it's a coolant line. If so, I'll report if it, you know, pops off and I have to buy one or buy hose and cut it like proper hose. But it has not leaked yet. The only leaks I had was I actually reused the gasket and it was not tightened down enough. So I just tightened it more. Has not leaked. I don't know if I have a reusable gasket on there. You can kind of see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care. Like I said, it's on a budget. So if it's not leaking coolant, it's not leaking coolant, and it's fine. The intake itself is a HF-3, and the video I watched, the guy had a HF-3 and said about an extra nipple on the intake, which he had to use a T for this wire, and it teed off to the nipple to close it off. Mine does not have that, even though it is an HF3, and I'm assuming because this is a manual intake. I think that's the difference. I do not have any of the automatic things. I think there was like a transmission shift thing, or it might have to do with the cruise control. Probably not, because I doubt these cars had cruise control. But something with the automatic that it had an extra bung on the intake. But mine is a manual intake. It did not have that. I did not have to plug that off. And that's about it. For somebody who knew nothing about the, you know, these old Hondas or this swap, I actually just removed this thinking that it was a direct bolt-on, and I started watching videos and learned out it was a little bit more involved. But I still did it within 2 days. 2 days were added because I was troubleshooting the distributor problem with the wiring. If I would have known that, it would have started right up, no issues. Like I said, I did not solder anything. I just had heat shrink. I bought at a local hardware store, and none of the wire, you know, all the wires are basically sealed. Even though I twisted them, nothing should go wrong. And yeah, the car's a lot more peppy. I've been driving it, no leaks, and yeah, really happy with it. I recommend it. This old intake is a dog. It like stutters. Anybody who's driven one of these cars knows, like, if you press the gas a little bit, it jerks back and forth. This new intake, it sounds awesome, and there's no stuttering. It's a smooth power band. The SI ECU, I believe, raises the limiter to like 7200 as well, and it pulls all the way. It's pretty fun. I definitely recommend it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I will answer anything that you got. Say goodbye.